What's going on, everyone? Hope you're doing well. Hope you're not too tired. Hopefully, the day has been good to you. So, today we're going to start a short story called The Medicine Bag. Now, when I say short story, don't think short necessarily. This is probably 10 or 12 pages long. If anybody would rather read it on their own, or you want to take it home maybe to fill out the Google form that's coming, there are some paper copies of the story. Back of the room, white tray near the bathroom sign out sheet. Those are there. But for the most part, you can just sit back, relax. I will read this to you. It will be like you have an audiobook. And then we'll discuss. There will be some parts throughout that I'll pause and we can discuss. But for the most part, I will do the reading for you, just like what we do with Frank and Beans. So in this class, lots of reading, quite a bit of writing, but probably more reading. But there will be a Google form. So you'll probably write, a total of like a page with all the hopefully paragraphs, pretty long answers that you will do with this short story. So hopefully yesterday you were in class and you watched that clip from a reservation in South Dakota. This story takes place in Iowa. So the family has decided to move from the reservation. In fact, you'll see that the main character, the protagonist of the story, he's never lived on the reservation. By the time he was born, his parents had moved. I can't remember one. I think it's his mom that is Native American and the dad is not. One of the parents are not Native American. At least they don't identify as Native American. And we're going to have a kid sister. He calls her Cheryl. There's going to be a little bit of difference between the two of them. But unlike the girl in the documentary we watched yesterday who's embracing her culture, he's using the culture when it's convenient. And now that he's a teenager, he's like, makes me feel weird. I really don't want to be a part of it. He's definitely embarrassed. All right, let's do this. Enough preamble, enough introduction. Let's get to the medicine bag. Yeah, this comes from the book that all 8th graders will be reading. We actually don't use the book in here. I'm not sure if your 7th grade teachers used it. We will use the online edition just because the books often get lost, and I make any of the material that has to be filled out for like an assignment or an assessment, I will make a Google form for it. So hopefully one less thing you have to lose. All right, let's make this bigger and let's go down here. So we get a little background. The Lakota Indians, you know most of this probably already. The Lakota Indians are part of the Sioux Nation, an indigenous people of the Great Plains region of North America. Today, there are about 170,000 Sioux Indians living in the United States. About 1/5 of the American Indian population live on reservations. And just in case we got some context clues there, like, whoa, what's a reservation? Oftentimes when there is a new, maybe difficult word, there will be a comma, and right after that, the definition, which are designated pieces of land ruled by tribal law. And these paragraphs are numbered, which might be helpful for when you're answering a question. It might refer to like, hey, paragraph, whatever. And then you'll probably want to go to the back and grab one of those packets of the medicine bag. Make this bigger. Let's go. Grandpa wasn't tall and stately like TV Indians. His hair wasn't in braids. It hung in stringy gray strands on his neck, and he was old. He was my great-grandfather. So right there, we get the idea that this is being told in first person. He's using that pronoun my, and he will also use that pronoun I. He was my great-grandfather, and he didn't live in a teepee. He lived all by himself in a part log, part tar paper shack on the Rosebud Reservation in South Dakota. This paragraph right here. My kid sister Cheryl and I always bragged about our Lakota grandpa, Joe Ironshell. Our friends who had always lived in the city and only knew about Indians from movies and TV were impressed by our stories. Maybe we exaggerated and made grandpa and the reservation sound glamorous, but when we returned home to Iowa after our yearly summer visit to grandpa, we always had some exciting tale to tell. We usually had some authentic Lakota article to show our listeners. So their listeners would be when they're telling their stories, other people in their class. One year, Cheryl had new moccasins that Grandpa had made. On another visit, he gave me a small, round, flat, rawhide drum decorated with a painting of a warrior riding a horse. He taught me a Lakota chant to sing while I beat on the drum with a leather-covered stick that had a feather on the end. Man, that really made an impression. We never showed our friends Grandpa's picture. Not that we were ashamed of him, but because we knew that the glamorous tales we told didn't go with the real thing. Our friends would have laughed. So when Grandpa came to visit us, I was so ashamed and embarrassed, I could have died. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. This story, for me, it's a little sad. It's a little sad. This summer I lost my mom. So there are parts of this that hit home for a little bit, but we're going to see that this man, and luckily my mom was never frail. I think I mentioned that. But unfortunately, this grandpa, spoiler alert, he is going to be really frail. And, this once great, was he a chief of the tribe? He was a great warrior of the tribe, right? A man really well respected, now is a frail old man. Some people say that we start our life in diapers, which is true. And some people say we end our life in diapers. But I don't think this man has any problem with diapers. I don't think he has any diapers, but I don't want to live long enough where I'm in diapers. Just take me before I have to, what do they call them? Adult diapers. Depends. I don't want any of those depends. Luckily, this man is frail. The story never goes into his bathroom needs, though, luckily. All right, back to the story here. This is paragraph 5. There are a lot of yippy poodles and other fancy little dogs in our neighborhood, but they usually barked singly at the mailman from the safety of their own yards. Now it sounded as if a whole pack of mutts were barking together in one place. I walked to the curb to see what the commotion was. About a block away, I saw a crowd of little kids yelling, with the dogs yipping and growling around someone who was walking down the middle of the street. I watched the group as it slowly came. Oh, I lost my place. I watched the group right at the top. I watched the group as it slowly came closer and saw that in the center of the strange procession, like a parade is a procession, one thing leading another, was a man wearing a tall black hat. He paused now and then to peer at something in his hand, and then at the house on either side of the street. I felt cold and hot at the same time. I recognized the man. Oh no, I whispered. It's Grandpa. I stood on the curb, unable to move, even though I wanted to run and hide. Then I got mad when I saw how the yippy dogs were growling and nipping at the old man's baggy pant legs, and how wearily he poked them away with his cane. Stupid mutts, I said, as I ran to rescue Grandpa. When I kicked and hollered at the dogs, right at the top there, to get away, they put their tails between their legs and scattered. The kids ran to the curb where they watched me and the old man. Grandpa, I said. Though that looks like a 1. Is that an I? Grandpa, I said, and reached for his beat-up old tin suitcase tied shut with a rope. But he set it down right in the street and shook my hand. Now, I don't know how to pronounce that. I don't even dare pronounce it. And even if we, don't know what it is right here, it will tell us. So sometimes don't get tripped up by those words like proper nouns of people's names and places. I think I've mentioned that in a couple classes. Don't get tripped up by this. I don't know. Could be how Tezuka, maybe, but it says grandchild. So maybe that means grandchild. He greeted me formally in Lakota. So whatever that means, it's just like a very formal hello. All I could do was shake. Sorry. All I could do that one is bothering me. All I could do was stand there with the whole neighborhood watching and shake the hand of the leather brown old man. I saw how his gray hair straggled from under his big black hat, which had a drooping feather in its crown. His rumpled black suit hung like a sack over his stooped frame. As he shook my hand, his coat fell open to expose a bright red satin shirt with a beaded bolo tie under the collar. His getup wasn't out of place on the reservation, but it sure was here. And I wanted to sink right through the pavement. There you go. Just in case you don't know, straggled, hung in messy strands. Hi, I muttered. How we doing on time? It's probably enough right there. Yeah, stop right there. That's about 11 minutes of reading. We don't want to go too long, but hopefully we know a little bit about the situation. We had some exposition. We know that this guy and his family have gone out to the reservation. They've met the grandfather every year during the summer. Then they come back home, tell stories. So we got some exposition out of the way, and then probably we got that conflict. And maybe we could talk about the conflict that could be brewing here. I think a lot of people will be able to figure out what the conflict is. So exposition and conflict out of the way. Do a little more reading tomorrow on a Friday. Can't wait on Friday. All right.